Hello. Let's get going with our yoga. First, I want to take a moment to show you some of the props that I like to have handy. Always a canvas strap, a couple different sizes of yoga blocks, ideally a couple different sizes of pillows, and a larger bolster and a smaller bolster. The supports are used to allow maximum relaxation in a restorative practice like this. Also, the blocks can be utilized to essentially bring the floor up a little closer to you. We're going to start in Savasana, corpse pose, setting our intentions for today's practice. Focus on what you want to bring into your life and what you're needing to let go of in order to create the space to allow for that change and shift. Continue to relax into your Savasana while setting your intentions. Continue to remain in Savasana while intentionally allowing yourself to let go of all of your worries and all of your concerns. Allow yourself to let go of your stress from today, from the week, from the month, and from the entire year. Give yourself permission to be stress-free. And then slowly rotate your head and neck to the right. Take in a deep breath. And then release, slowly rolling your head and neck back to neutral. And then to the left side for another deep breath. And then release and back to neutral. Stretching out long, reach your hands overhead and point your toes. You can rotate your ankles. Then hug in your right knee. And you might want to engage that foot, flexing your heel, pointing your toes, rotating the ankles some more. Continue hugging that knee, paying close attention to any micro movements and focusing on the compression in your right hip socket. And then you can reach for your canvas strap, get it to go across the ball of your right foot, and then straighten out your leg. You might want to keep a little softness in your knee. Hold that there. You might want to pull that leg slightly closer to your chest. And then swing the right leg out to your right side while continuing to hold your foot in the strap for the half straddle. This is a big stretch. We're going to hold that for a couple of deep breaths. And then when you release, you can set your strap aside, lowering your right leg back down to the mat. Hands overhead again, stretching out long once more, pointing those toes and rotating your ankles before then hugging in your left knee. And again, you can engage your foot and ankle by flexing and pointing your toes, rotating your ankles some more. Continue hugging your left knee in tightly. And again, pay attention to the micro movements and focus on the compression in your left hip socket. And then you can get your strap. Place the canvas across the ball of your left foot. As you straighten out that leg, again, you can keep a little bit of a slight bend in the left knee if you wish. Hold that there. And you might want to pull your leg in just a little closer to your chest. And then swing the left leg out to the left side with your left foot still in that strap for the half straddle on the other side. It's a really big stretch. We're going to continue to hold for several breaths. And then set your strap aside while lowering the left leg back down to the mat. Both legs are out straight, stretching out long arms up overhead, and then hug in both of your knees tightly. You can continue holding your right knee while lowering the left leg back down to the mat. Hold this for several breaths, hugging that knee in. And then you're going to place the right knee onto the floor or bolster across your body on the left side for the supine twist. Arms are in a T. We're going to stay in the supine twist, keeping your drishti out over your right fingertips. You have an option to use your left hand to apply a light pressure to your right knee if you wish. Enjoy this stretch and release, focusing on the small of your back and just allowing that to loosen. Then we're going to slowly turn our head to look in the opposite direction for 2 full breaths over the left shoulder and fingertips. Slowly turning the head and neck back to look to the right over those right fingertips again. Keeping a relaxed gaze over that right shoulder. And then rotating your head back to neutral. Lowering the right leg back down to the floor. Hug in both of your knees together again. Head and neck towards the knees, rocking and rolling. And then lower your right leg back down to the mat while continuing to hug your left knee this time. And hold it there for several breaths. Then we're going to move the left knee across your body to place it on the floor or bolster on the right side for the supine twist on the other side. Arms are in a T again. Enjoy this release while keeping your gaze out over your left fingertips. And with your right hand, you can apply a light pressure to the left knee at any point if you wish. Really relax into this twist. Again, focus on that release in the small of your back. And then slowly you're going to turn your head and neck to be looking out over the right shoulder and right fingertips. Hold for a couple of breaths. And then slowly move the head and neck to be looking back over your left fingertips. And then back to neutral. Lower your left leg back down to the mat when coming out of this twist. You can stretch both arms out long overhead. And then hug in both knees once again, stretching your neck, trying to touch your forehead to your knees. You can rotate your ankles, engaging your feet, flexing the heels, pointing your toes. And now we're going to get into the reclined butterfly. You might want to utilize a couple of props under the knees or thighs. Arms are down by your sides, hands facing up, just surrendering to your practice. And then glide your arms across the floor out to your sides, arching them overhead in a half moon to steeple grip. Hold that there. And then glide your arms back down to your sides like butterfly wings. Hands or palms are facing up again. And then slowly stretching your arms out wide to the sides. And then arching them overhead in that half moon again. Touching your fingertips to each other in steeple grip or prayer hands. We're going to remain in the reclined butterfly momentarily. You might want to remove any props if you're using anything under your knees or thighs. We're going to get into reclined tree pose. So first, straighten out your left leg while placing the sole of your right foot against the inseam of your left thigh as high as you can. Hands are still overhead in prayer hands, steeple grip, or yogi's choice. You can branch your arms out, whatever's comfortable. And then we're going to simply switch sides by first straightening out your right leg and then placing the sole of your left foot high to the inseam of your right thigh. Arms can still be in prayer hands overhead, goalposts, steeple grip, branching them out, however you're most comfortable. And then you're going to reach for your strap and get it to go across the balls of both of your feet for legs up the wall. Your knees can be straightened or bent slightly. You can pedal your knees, walk it out, you can rock, you can wiggle, anything you wish. And then continue to keep your left foot in the canvas strap on the ball of your foot while you remove your right foot and place that right ankle across your left thigh for reclined pigeon. Holding that there, you can bend your left knee slightly as an option, or you can keep it straightened, or some of each, straightening and bending. And then we're going to switch out the feet, getting your right foot back into that canvas strap, removing your left foot, and placing the left foot across your right thigh for the reclining pigeon on the other side. Enjoy this stretch. Again, you have an option to bend your knee slightly or straighten it, or a little bit of each. And then we're going to set the strap aside and lay flat for 3 honey bumblebee breaths. Your fingers go across your closed eyelids. Thumbs are on your ear cartilage. Pressing your thumbs down on the tragus, closing off the airway to your ears. Breathing in through your nose and out through your nose. We're going to hum low pitch 3 times on the exhale. After that, get ready to turn yourself over. Slowly you can turn to the left or the right, and then carefully flipping yourself all the way over to lay prone on your front side. You can rest your head on your hands, laying on top of each other. We're going to prepare for another supine twist. First, come up onto your elbows and forearms into Sphinx. And then hike up your right knee out to your right side. With your right arm out in front of yourself, you can thread the needle with your left arm. making any adjustments for this pose that you need to get into the supine twist once again. You might want to use a bolster or prop to support your knee. You can straighten out both of your arms. Try to lay your shoulders flat on the floor if you want to, with your arms in a T. At any point, you can use your left hand to apply a light pressure to your right knee. Keeping your gaze out over the right shoulder, looking towards your right fingertips. Feel the difference from the last supine twist, having gotten into this pose from an entirely different series of prompts and directives. Also take notice of similarities along with those differences. And when you're ready to come out of this twist, you can rest your head on your hands again, stacking them on top of each other for several breaths. And then bending your knees, lifting your feet into the air, windshield wiper the feet and calves back and forth. Slowing that down before you then lower your feet back down to the mat and then back up onto your forearms and elbows and hands into the Sphinx pose again. This time, hike your left knee out to your left side with your left arm out in front of you. Thread your right arm through the needle, shifting into the supine twist again, same as the other side. You can adjust yourself so that both shoulders and arms are flat on the ground in a T. And again, you have that option to apply a light pressure with your right hand on your left knee, keeping your drishti out over your left shoulder. Relax into this twist while again noticing any similarities and differences from the first supine twist, and even just from the other side. And when you are done, you can unwind and then rest your head on your hands, stacked lightly on top of each other again. This time in a really exaggerated motion, windshield wiper the feet and knees back and forth, loosening out the hips. And then slowing that down, lowering your feet back down to the ground. And then you're going to send your hips back towards your feet to get into a wide knee child pose. You can use a block or a bolster or a pillow to rest your head or your torso on. Going to remain in this wide knee child pose, really relaxing the torso, ragdolling that upper portion of your body, allowing gravity to do the work for you. Really lean into it. And then when you're done, remove the prop if you have one, and come up into a tabletop form momentarily, before then lowering yourself back down into the Sphinx on your elbows and forearms again. This time spreading your hands and your fingers out as wide as you can, holding that Sphinx pose tall, before then turning your right forearm to be parallel with the top of the mat, reaching back for your left foot with your left hand. Hold that half bow pose for several breaths. And then you can take a minute here to attempt the full bow. If you're up for it, try to get each of your feet into each of your hands. This can be extremely challenging, even if you're very adept at it. Our flexibility changes day to day. You can take a minute here. You might want to use the strap, or if you have someone nearby, you can ask them to spot you. Whatever it is that you need to do if you're able to get into the full bow shape. If it's too much, just do whatever modification you're comfortable with. You can use your breath and diaphragm to rock yourself lightly, or you can remain still, or some of each. And then as you let go of your feet, rest your head on your hands again. One hand laying on top of the other. And windshield wipering your feet again. Really loosening out the hips again too. And then as you slow that down, lower your feet back down to the mat. And the same thing on the other side. Coming back into Sphinx, stretching hands and fingers out as wide as you can, sitting up tall, before then turning the left forearm to be parallel with the top of your mat, reaching back with your right hand to hold your right foot, engaging in the half bow for several breaths. And then just like on the other side, attempt the full bow if it's in your practice. And again, if you need to use your strap, have someone spot you, whatever you need to support yourself into this challenge of full bow, or whatever modification is good for you today. And again, you can use your breath and your diaphragm to rock lightly back and forth, or you can try to remain still, or a little bit of both. When letting go of your feet, lower them back down to the mat. And then again, send your hips back to sit on your feet into child's pose. This time in a regular child's pose with your knees touching. While sitting on your feet, you can rest your forehead on a block if you wish. We're going to be here for a prolonged period. Ragdolling your torso. Really lean into this. And then you can walk your fingers or slide your hands to the right edge of the mat, reaching for the upper right corner. Feel that stretch across your lower ribs. And then slide your hands or walk your fingers back to neutral. Sliding or walking your hands and fingers to the left edge of the mat. reaching toward the upper left corner. Focus on the extension in the lower right ribs, holding that there for several breaths. Before then gliding or walking your fingers and hands back to neutral. Again, really allow yourself to relax into this pose. Breathe into the child's pose. And then slowly you can push your torso up, pressing your hands onto the mat. We're going to come up into hero's pose. And pausing there, you might want a blocker pillow under your rear end. You can place your hands on your thighs, remaining still. Take notice of the challenges of the seemingly easy pose. And then you can get your hands into prayer hands over your heart. You can slowly rise the prayer hands up overhead. And then slowly lowering the prayer hands back down to hands over heart. And then placing your palms back onto your thighs. And then we're going to come up onto our knees in a widened stance. You can reach your arms behind you. You can get your hands and fingers into a bind, exploring the limits of your flexibility with this, maybe pushing your arms up slightly behind yourself, maybe slightly leaning back. You might want to bend forward with your forehead onto the floor and then lowering your arms towards the floor, stretching out your shoulder girdles. And then if you're doing that slowly, you can come back up. And then we're going to move into the camel pose. You can unclasp your hands and leaning back, slightly arching your torso. I usually like to use a bolster on the back of my calves or ankles, reaching for it with my hands, and then exploring this heart opener. And then as you come out of this shape, you can sit your rear end back down on your feet into the hero's pose again. And again, focusing on your breath. Once you're ready, swing your legs out around in front of yourself for staff pose. We can use a stack of pillows and props on top of the legs, piling the props so that you can ragdoll your upper body over your thighs, resting your torso on the props. Alternatively, you can use the strap on the balls of your feet for the same type of effect. We're going to relax into this for an extended period. Really lean into it. Envision tilting your hips towards your feet, towards your toes. Allow gravity to do the work for you. Focus on easing your weight forward, trusting the gravitational pull to completely support you and keep you safe. And then when we're done, remove the props and set them aside. Get your left leg stretched out long. Bring the right foot up high to the inseam of your left thigh. Reaching for your left toes in a side bend. Breathing into the stretch. Focus on relaxing into it. Trusting the gravity to do its work for you. And then as we come up to neutral, switch out your legs, first straightening out your right leg and then bending your left knee to get your left foot high on your inner right thigh. And we're going to lean towards the right in that side bend again, holding the right toes with the right hand. Your left hand might be over that right hand and foot. Focusing on your breath and again, trusting gravity to do its magic, supporting you and keeping you safe. And then coming back up to neutral. Stretch both legs out to a wide straddle. Leaning forward, reach out in front of yourself, maybe resting your forearms and forehead onto a couple of blocks stacked on top of each other. Focus on really leaning into this. Allow the weight of your head to be fully supported on the blocks if you have your forehead resting on a block. Relax into your breathing. And then as we come up, we're going to get ourselves into a seated butterfly. Hold the soles of your feet together with both hands, allowing your knees to fall towards the floor. Sitting up tall, and then mindfully bending your head and neck slowly towards your feet. And then gently rising your head slowly up to neutral, imagining a string from above your head, pulling it straight up in a perfect posture. And then slowly twist your head from side to side, first to the right, looking over your right shoulder, then back to neutral, and then over your left shoulder, and then back to neutral. And now you can stretch your neck down. Can roll it out in small movements at first. You might want to twist your head back and forth like you're indicating a no. You can stretch your neck diagonally, bending from side to side. If you want to move your head up and down, as if you're acknowledging a yes, you can do that. And if it's in your practice, you can do a full circle rotation in one direction, and then a full circle rotation in the other direction. And then you can bring your head up to neutral. and then shift into easy pose. Touching down to the mat with your left fingertips, drop your right ear to your right shoulder. You have an option here to use a light pressure with your right fingertips on the top of your skull. And if you want, you can move your head and neck slightly back and forth to gently massage out those neck muscles. And then allow the head and neck to go back to neutral. Reaching with your right fingers towards the mat while dropping your left ear to your left shoulder. And again, with that slight pressure with your left fingertips, if you wish, moving the head and neck slightly back and forth. And then back to neutral. And again, turning your head slowly from side to side, gently to the right. And then back to neutral. And now to the left. And then back to neutral. And now we're going to bring ourselves into that wide straddle again. Leaning forward. You might want to use the blocks in front of you to rest your forehead on again, as we're going to remain in this stretch for an extended period. Focusing on your breath. You can fill your lungs full of air as much as you can, and then allow them to deflate as much as you can, and then refilling your lungs again, appreciating the fresh air and the oxygen traveling into your bloodstream to reach all of your muscles as you relax into this stretch. And then you can pick up a block into each of your hands. Reaching over the left foot, you can place each of those blocks on either side of your foot to rest your hands on. Or you can reach for your toes. Again, allow gravity to assist you in your efforts, making this side stretch as easy as you can. And then picking up the blocks, you can place them out in front of yourself, leaning forward for a moment, before then picking them back up to place on either side of your right foot. And again, reaching for your toes or resting your hands on the blocks. Breathing deep and allowing gravity to work its magic. Letting go of all of your stress. And then come back to neutral and set your blocks aside. Our next pose will be bending our right knee over our left leg extended out straight, twisting to the right, gazing to the back of the room. Right hand or fist is on the floor behind you. Arm is supporting your torso. Use your left elbow to leverage on the right knee, resting your drishti as far back as you can. And then slowly turning your head and neck and your gaze to the front of the room. And then again, slowly returning your head and your neck and your gaze to the back of the room. All while continuing to leverage the left elbow on the right knee. And then we're going to come out of this twist and simply switch sides, bending the left knee over the right knee. Right leg is extended out straight. Left hand or fist on the floor behind yourself, gazing over your left shoulder towards the back of the room, leveraging your right elbow against your left knee. And then slowly turning your head and neck and gaze to be looking out over your right shoulder towards the front of the room. And then slowly returning your drishti, your head and your neck rotating to be looking out over your left shoulder again towards the back of the room. Again, continuing to leverage that right elbow on the left knee. And then back to neutral. Next, we're going to hold the soles of our feet together again, getting into that butterfly pose once more. Pressing the knees towards the floor, sitting up tall, and then slowly and carefully bending the head and neck towards the feet. And then again, imagining that string being pulled from above, from the top of your head, rising up in perfect posture, and again, gently rotating your head to the right, looking out over the right shoulder. Slowly back to neutral. And then carefully rotating your head and neck to the left, looking out over your left shoulder. And then again, back to neutral. And then we're going to get our legs into cow face and then Lord of the Fish. First, bend your right knee over the left knee that's also bent, stacking them on top of one another for cow face. You can hold each of your feet in each of your hands, sitting up tall. You can use your thumbs to press into the arches of your feet, giving yourself a nice gentle foot massage if you wish. And then we're going to turn all the way to the right with your right arm behind you. Your left elbow leverages against that right knee again, looking towards the back of the room, appreciating the power of this twist. And then slowly turning your head to the opposite side to be looking out over your left shoulder. And then carefully back again, looking back over your right shoulder. And then back to neutral. Then straighten out both legs in front of yourself for staff pose. You can stretch your arms out wide to the sides and then arch them into the half moon up towards the sky. Interlacing your fingers, binding your hands. You can turn your wrists and forearms outward, reaching up as tall as you can. Before then bending forward, reaching for your toes. Notice any tightness in your back. Allow that to loosen. And then come back up to neutral. We're going to prepare to switch the legs out for cow face on the other side. Your left knee stacked on top of your right bent knee. Holding your feet with each of your hands. Again, sitting up tall, and you can massage the thumbs into the arches of each foot for a moment. Before then twisting to the left, right arm, right elbow leveraging against that left knee. Looking out over your left shoulder to the back of the room. And then slowly turning your head and your neck and your gaze to the other side, looking out over your right shoulder towards the front of the room. And then slowly returning the head and the neck and the gaze to be looking over the left shoulder once again towards the back of the room. And then allow your head to come back to neutral. As we come out of this twist, we'll return to the staff pose, reaching the arms out wide again, legs out in front, making a half moon arch, touching your hands overhead into the steeple grip, reaching up tall. And then you can lean forward to hold your toes, noticing if you have any more tension in your back than you did just a minute ago in the same stretch. And then as you come back up to neutral, transition yourself into easy pose. Reaching the arms out wide to the sides and then arching overhead into the half moon arch. Touch both hands together for prayer hands before then getting into cactus arms. And then eagle arms, your right elbow over your left elbow. Pushing your elbows up slightly, bending your head and neck down slightly. You can remain in this nice subtle stretch for the entire time here, or you have an option to slowly look up as high as possible, leaning your head back slightly while pushing your eagle arms up towards the sky. If you do, your arms will naturally unpretzel, and then you can reach out wide, or you can just undo your eagle arms, reaching your arms out wide, touching your hands down to the ground briefly before arching the arms back up overhead into another half moon. Touching the hands together again before then getting your arms into cactus shape. And again, eagle arms with the left elbow over the right elbow this time. And again, pushing those elbows up slightly and bending the head and neck down slightly. And you can hold that there. Or again, you have the option to then slowly look up as high as possible, leaning your head back slightly, pushing your elbows and arms up, and then they will naturally unpretzel and stretch the arms out wide to the side, or simply stretch your arms out wide to the side before then touching the earth and then reaching back out wide and bringing your arms up overhead in one more half moon to steeple grip, sitting up tall. And then we're going to do a simple twist to each side. As you lower your arms down, your right hand goes behind you, your left hand on the right knee, twisting lightly to the right, and then lifting your right arm up high to cross over the left arm, reaching for the left knee with the right hand, and then the left hand goes onto the floor behind you, before then raising that left arm straight up in the air to cross over your right arm and hold your right knee, before then coming back to neutral. And here you can hug your knees lightly into this basket shape. And then you have an opportunity to get into a boat pose. I like to hold my hands under my legs first for a very intense boat pose, before then holding my arms out parallel to the ground in a more traditional boat pose. Body is in the shape of a V. It's really good for your core strength. And you have an option here to scissor your legs for a moment. I like to do this with my toes pointed while raising my legs up and down as I'm scissoring for an additional benefit for core strength. And then continuing with feet arching. And then eventually laying down on your back, stretching out long. And then you can plant each of your feet onto the floor with your knees bent. You might want to hold a block or a pillow between your knees and possibly another on each side of yourself, to then allow your knees to simply fall to the right with the arms in a T, focusing the gaze out over the left fingertips. It's just a wonderful, simple stretch. And then slowly rotate your head to look out over your right shoulder. And then slowly back again to look over your left shoulder. And then allow your head and your neck to go back to neutral. Bring your knees to neutral. And then allow those knees to fall to the left. Arms are still in a T. Gazing out over your right fingertips this time. Such a lovely stretch. Sometimes the simplest ones are the best ones. And then you can slowly turn your head and neck to be looking out over your left shoulder, setting your gaze over your left fingertips. And then slowly turning your head and neck and your gaze back to look out over the right fingertips again. And then back to neutral. You can get your knees back to neutral and remove any props. Hug in both of your knees tightly, bending your head and neck, forehead towards your knees. You can engage the feet, flex the heels, point the toes, rotating the ankles. And then plant both feet firmly on the mat again. Arms are in a T. Kick your right leg up high, crossing your right knee over your left knee, and then allow your legs to simply fall to your right. Arms are in that T, gazing out over your left fingertips. This is my favorite twist of them all. And then as you bring your knees up to neutral, you can uncross them. Hug knees to chest again, rocking and rolling. And then again, firmly planting both feet back onto the mat for the other side. Arms are still in a T. Kick your left leg up high to cross your left knee over your right knee, and allowing those knees to just fall to your left. Arms are in that T with your gaze out over your right fingertips. Enjoy this final twist, the grand finale. And then as you release your knees, come back to neutral. You can hug in both knees one more time, rocking and rolling. And then if you would like to, you have an option here for the happy baby. Getting each of your feet into each of your hands. You can rock the baby. You might want to alternate slightly straightening and bending each knee. And then as you come out of this form, we'll lay flat and then reach for a block for supported bridge. Plant both feet firmly onto the mat. Again, lifting the hips upward. Slide the block under the small of your back on its lowest level. And then relax into your supported bridge. And then while still on the block, you can reach for your strap, or you can do this without the strap. If you're using your strap, get the canvas across the balls of both feet. And we're going to do legs up the wall again for another minute. You can do this with an actual wall if you have one handy, or just in the air. Personally, I like the strap the best. Again, you can walk your legs out, pedaling out your knees, slightly bending and straightening the knees. And then when you're done, you can set your strap aside, remove the block. If it's in your practice, there's an option here for the shoulder stand and the plow. You can take a minute or two to do these if you like, or yogi's choice, any stretch you would like, or you can feel free to get into Savasana early and we'll meet you there. Should you be in a shoulder stand, you might want to point your toes tall. You might want to rotate your ankles or scissor your legs. any movement at all that you're inclined to do before then transitioning into the plow. And then as you come out of the plow, try as slowly and controlled as possible with your chin tucked to roll one vertebrae at a time until you're laying down flat on the mat for your savasana. And again, remember the intentions that you set at the beginning of this practice. Thank yourself for taking the time out of your day to focus on yourself and your well-being. Think about any actions or activities or meditations that you can utilize to bring these things into your life that you want more of, and to diminish the things in your life that you would like less of. And then as you bring your awareness back into the room and back into your body, you can roll to one side or the other and rest there. Eventually, we'll be pushing ourselves to sit up, or if it's comfortable for you, there's an option to slightly, with your chin tucked, come up onto both elbows behind yourself, slightly rocking, straightening out your arms behind you to transition into easy pose, or if you're pushing yourself up from your side, we'll meet you here into the easy pose. And then place your left hand on the right knee. Right hand is on the floor behind you, lightly twisting to your right. Lifting your right arm up high overhead, crossing your right arm over your left, right hand onto your left knee. And then reaching your left hand behind you for a light twist. And then lifting that left arm up to go over your right arm. left hand onto the right knee again. And then hug yourself lightly into this basket shape. And then you can hug yourself in as tightly as you can, making yourself into as small of a ball or a seedling as you are able, constricting yourself in to take up as little space as possible, before then releasing and stretching your arms out wide to the sides into a star shape. And then lowering each hand onto each of your knees, touching the pointer fingers to the thumbs. We're going to breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth, chanting Om 3 times in a low pitch on the exhale. And then stretching your arms out wide to the sides again for that half moon arch. Bringing the arms up overhead to prayer hands. And then in acknowledgement of your insight and wisdom, touch your thumbs or knuckles to your third eye as you bring your hands down to hands over heart. Again, reaching the arms out wide once more for one last half moon arch. Prayer hands overhead. And then slowly lowering those prayer hands to hands over heart as you bow to close and seal today's practice. And so it is. I thank you for practicing with me today. Be well. Enjoy a very blessed rest of your day. And don't forget to drink your water. Love and light.